Hello, everybody. We're back. We're back, and I'm just going to make sure that our Instagram family are with us. So we're just going to make sure. Yes, they are coming on. Hello, everybody. Hi, Instagram. Hi, YouTube. And hello, ladies. How are we?
Hello, good.
Hi.
Hi. Good to good to see you back, EJ and stuff. It's really good to have you back and stuff. So, EJ has been dealing with a lot, and I hope you're feeling better as well. Yeah.
Oh, I'm here. It's the best I can do for now.
Good. Good to see you. So apologies from Rochelle today and Helen. But it's the three of us, and you've got us. And today we are talking about, to some, could be a sensitive topic. And to others, it's a topic of learning and a discussion. Today we're talking about race. Now, why am I talking about race? I believe that every time that there is a topic that comes up about race, the most recent one being at the BAFTAs, I always think to myself, I don't talk about it enough. EJ has dropped out. I always think to myself, I don't talk about it enough. As a black woman, I don't know if you realize, but I am black. As a black woman, I feel as if, and there's a reason for this, and we're going to get into this conversation. As a black woman, I feel as if I don't talk about it enough, which means that maybe people who I hang out with, socialize with, or my peers may not understand me or my behaviors or my thoughts sometimes. So I thought, let's get into this conversation. Let's see. We've got Naomi, we've got EJ, and we're just gonna go into it, really. So EJ, you're humming and humming and humming. even just the humming, right? The humming is very much an African thing. Like, I've got so much to say. So I want to ask, sort of like from a racism perspective or race in general, and I'm gonna go to Naomi on this, actually. As somebody who isn't black, I feel as if a lot of people have said, "Oh, we've got to be careful." When I feel like I have to tread on shells when I speak to black people and stuff. Is that something that you feel?
Categorically, no.
Good girl.
And it's why I came on this call today, because I'm here for learning and education.
Yes.
Okay. Because for me, I take a person for who they are, how they treat me on meeting me, how we connect, and that is for me, that is regardless of race, gender, anything at all. And I know I've used this word before. For me, there are some times that I think maybe some people think I am naive in lots of situations, not necessarily in race, but in, I take things at the value that I see them, that I view them through. And so, no, for me, it's not something. And that's why I'm here today, to learn, to be educated, to understand better, because for me, it isn't, it is about the person and how we connect and how somebody else treats me and how I treat them. And that is regardless of anything else.
Okay, thank you. And I really appreciate the answer. So before I go to you, EJ, I want to just put a caveat here so we can understand. I wrote a post during the George Floyd what's it called, Black Lives Matter time, and it was during lockdown, and black people were being accused of not responding to the way that other black people were responding, and there was a huge lot of confusion. And I decided, probably I felt as much as responsibility as I do now, to explain that there are different sorts of black people. And again, some people may struggle with that. So you have people who are of mixed heritage, who will tell you the whole different story, and I can't relate to that. I do have a niece, however, who is of mixed race, and her thing is identity, like struggling to understand what her identity is, because her mum's black, her mum's my sister, her dad's white, and even when there's racism and stuff, it's like in some rooms she's too white, and in some rooms she's too black and stuff, and trying to understand that piece of information. And I guess if she thought of racism, she could be misunderstood and going, well, what's your problem? Because you're closer to our color than to the next person's color. But there are also other black people. So I come from Africa. I only spent 12 years there of my life, from the age of 6 to 18. But in Cameroon, where I come from, there is no racism as such. What when I say no racism, as in we'll discriminate amongst ourselves, but we won't,
Tribes.
yeah, tribes and stuff, and how light you are and everything else. But we won't discriminate. There's no discrimination as in you're black, so you can't get this opportunity. But also you've got, and it's very similar to EJ. I don't want to speak on EJ's behalf, but it's very similar to EJ because EJ's from Nigeria. However, you in America, for example, you've got a lot of black children who are born to be weary of the white guy, because white guy is associated with the police, authority, yeah, exactly, and stuff, segregation and all of that and stuff. So it's even in like and in England it happens too. Like if a black guy goes out at night in a car in England, it's a very different very different attire and mentality compared to a white guy. So you want to make sure that you've got your ID with you. You want to make sure that you're doing everything you possibly can within the law, because the perception is that you're going to get stopped, and it does happen, and it has happened. So I just want to say this, is that there's different sorts of black people. So our conversation here may not necessarily reflect every black person's opinion. Equally, you've got somebody from the Caribbean who will have a completely different outlook. And I just want to say very quickly, years ago, I had a West Indian friend, and she'd come back to college and go, I didn't get that job because I was black. I didn't get that job because I was black. And I was like, what is all this about? Like, I'd never heard this before. And I rang my mum, and my mum said to me, she goes, they've had a different experience than you. So where you're not even thinking about that, which I honestly also believe is what has contributed to my success in the corporate world, because I didn't have that, oh God, I'm not going to get it because I'm black, so then you don't get it. She always thought that and stuff. So we're not undermining anybody's experience, but I wanted to mention that. So EJ, from your perspective, what are your thoughts? Like, to you, what is racism, and have you experienced it?
So I've gone from, I don't want to call them extremes, but I've gone from one side of the spectrum to the other, because I wasn't born in the UK. I did not grow up in the UK. And with how old am I? Yeah, so still majority of my life was, in Africa. I came to the UK as an adult. So my perception is based on what I've just said. And I've come from, like most, again, not speaking for everybody, but from my experience, many Black people who were not born here, when we first come to the UK, we are in danger of diminishing other Black people's experience, because they were born here. They have everything that comes around being a Black person in Britain. And we who are perhaps coming from countries that are predominantly Black, like you say, what are you talking about? My skin color before I moved to the UK was never a conversation.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's like, how light skin are you, or how dark skin are you, Black beauty, or you both, whatever it is. But I've never been deprived before I came to the UK because of the color of my skin. So I, like many people that I see now, started to diminish the experience of other Black people by saying, why are you angry all the time? why are you all kicking off? Come on, everything's not about your color. Like, just, you've come to a country that is so open, so nice. You're an immigrant or whatever. Just enjoy the privilege of being here and stop kicking off. Stop reducing yourself to the color of your skin, I used to say. Now I'm known as one of the kickoff merchants on the issues of race around the country, because now, having lived in the UK for quite a while, I see that luckily I didn't come during the time when people could be physically abusive towards you on the bus, supermarkets, or whatever. I'm here at a time when it's a bit more subtle.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more nuanced,
Yeah.
which is why if you react to it, you will come across as a reaction. So that's where my confidence. I know we're going to talk about it, but that's so I have experienced racism. I'm one of those people that has walked into an estate agent and they've said, "Oh, sorry, we don't have anything. Can we take your email address and we'll contact you when we have something?" And I've gone to the car and I'm sent in my ex-husband who is white, and he's come out with 2 brochures full of houses. So I have experienced that. But well, that's the conversation. That's the conversation we're having. I just want to add to what you said in terms of the different types of Black experience, and one of us cannot speak for all of us. And if one of us is saying this is an issue, it shouldn't be disregarded.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it's like, again, lived experience is lived experience. And I, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And the truth of the matter is that just as I can't imagine what it's like to be someone who is a transgender person, I feel like there's also that ignorance. And I don't think it's a bad ignorance, because the truth of the matter is I don't have books reading about the transgender experience. I don't. I'm not going to lie that I ever will. But to Naomi's point, I'll always look at the person that I'm faced with, but also listen and pay attention. I think that's the thing as well, is listen to pay attention. So, for example, I didn't know that. Well, no, I did actually, because I did. I actually rolled out the Equality and Diversity initiative for Transport for London over 20 odd years ago. But at the time, we like in the whole office, we had, I think, 2 transgender individuals, and we'd agreed that they could use the toilets of their chosen gender. But I'm still not versed with it. Like, now I look at it and go, okay, it should be allowed, and we need to give people a level of understanding, and that's also understanding the people that are against it as well as for it, and understanding why they're against it. Equally as race, I don't think people understand. I don't think everybody understands, and actually I think there's more people than not who understand things like generational trauma. So I'm going to talk about this. When I say generational trauma, whilst I didn't experience that racism, if my parents did, I never asked them. But maybe 2 or 3 generations back, the land that my great grandparents have and that they left to us could have been impacted by racism, because our countries are colonials. So we had the English, the French, and the Portuguese come and take over Cameroon, and the German come and take over Cameroon. So the white man would have gone in there and shown their authority and what have you, which is why Cameroon speaks French and English. Yeah, it's like Cameroon. So here's what I know, and I believe this is what made me want to have, because this was my idea. I wanted to have this conversation. Is that even though I don't get offended as much by racial slurs, or, for example, the BAFTAs, I literally was just like, you know what? let's move on. I also believe that there was an ulterior motive behind that particular thing. I thought it was a distraction as well, and that's my opinion. So in my head, I was just like, do you know what? It's not a thing, which is why I'm surprised at the amount of noise that it created. But equally, the drums of my ancestors beats hard. It beats hard, and it's not something anybody can explain, because even now I feel, I don't even know where it's coming from, but I feel tears welling up. But
Yeah.
I can feel the impact of
Yeah.
of generational trauma that you're not even aware of. You don't even know where it's
Yeah.
coming from. And it gets to the point where it's almost like you can't speak.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's other black people who are probably more closer to this than I am, who have lost their voice, who can't speak up, who wouldn't dare put up a channel and say, let's talk about this. And as a result, they go into this hole and sit there quietly, hoping that nobody notices them and keeping their head down
Yeah.
because of that trauma. So it I think the point of this is that wherever you go as a black person, it will find you. And sometimes that emotion that just came up with me can manifest itself as shouting, as anger, as defensiveness, and it's because it's got nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's also our job to educate everybody else who isn't of this race. And it's not just a white person, the Indians, the Spanish and all of those. It's like it's about education and going, when we get called a name, like those men did at the BAFTAs, what you saw, the trauma response when they froze, because it wasn't, oh, somebody's called us that name. It's, we have forefathers who got hung being called that
Yeah.
name. We got people whose houses burnt down because of that name.
People
We've
lost their lives.
lost their lives, right? And stuff. Yeah, I mean, I could say lost their lives, EJ, but I really want to make it graphic that, you there's a tree, you get hung from it.
Mm.
Your wife, your sister, your mother got raped
Mm.
in an act of submission and stuff with that name.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, it's an education just to say when that name gets called, it goes so much deeper than that. EJ, I know I want to come to you, but and Naomi, you don't have to have. I'm very aware that it's not your lived experience, but I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and do you know what? Even as you're talking of things, and I'm not concerned about filtering today, treading on eggshells, because I know that we've come on to have this conversation.
Yeah.
But even as I cannot understand your lived experience, I cannot comprehend it. But equally, and this is the way that I view things, it's like when somebody says to me, oh, I completely understand how you're feeling, like with your dad at the moment, or with losing your mum as a teenager. And I don't correct them. However, the first thought that goes through my mind is, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because even if you lost your mum as a teenager and I lost my mum as a teenager, our circumstances were completely different. Our lived experience was completely different.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I come at things and I'm going to call it naive. And I don't think it is naive. I think it's just the way that I view things is that no two people, even if we have the same, what we deem as the same experiences happen, we don't have the same lived experience. You mentioned their generational trauma, and there is, evidence now that we all, regardless of race, creed, sex, gender, we all carry 7 layers of our ancestors' trauma. Now, I know that there's a huge amount of trauma in my family. I've done the looking back, First World War.
Yeah.
My nana was widowed at 34, brought children up on her own, the only way that she could survive post-war was to rent out every room in her house and have completely strange men living in her property at 34 with 2 young children. And basically she was their, caretaker, would clean their clothes, would put meals on the floor, on the table. The reason I say that is because that is generational trauma. We all have it, regardless of our, like I say, race, gender, anything at all. I cannot put myself in anybody's shoes, regardless of who they are. And I think, I grew up in a very small town, predominantly white. However, I had, friends at school who were mixed race, who were black. And then I went into 20 odd years of hospitality where I was working with every race in the UK and in the Middle East. And again, I've never, and I've had, I've gone out with guys who are black, who are brown, who are mixed race, who are all different, all different races. And I have never, ever once seen them as different. Now, interestingly, I have had friends who have seen me in those relationships and things as it doesn't fit their idea of who I should be with, who I should be dating, whatever. But that has never, ever, ever impacted my views and my thoughts on it. I would definitely say, not probably, I would say, I know this word has been used a huge amount this last week, allyship. And I think this is probably somewhere that I don't step forwards. Okay, so I am going to say that to you.
Yeah.
But that for me isn't about race. That for me is about any situation, because, it goes back to that thing. And my dad has always said this to me. There's always 3 sides of a story.
Amen. Silver fox. Yes.
I look at, the situation in my family where 2 siblings have had completely different experiences. Now, we both have a side to our story, but there's also a third.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that is probably a place that I do not, I will not step forwards, but not around race, around anything, because, and that's not about me not having a view. It's about how can I appreciate what those people have gone through. Yes, I might send a private message and say, look, I just want you to know that I, feel for you, and I appreciate you saying what you said. I will learn, I will this, I will the other. But also, I'm not here to, I'm not here to say things that actually then I sort of think to myself, well, do I know all the pieces? Like, for instance, I haven't even seen the clip from the BAFTA. I've told you this, Victoria.
I haven't.
Don't watch television.
I don't.
I really, and a lot of that is because I've healed from my own trauma. So actually, I limit, and I'm not saying that about the BAFTAs, but as in, I limit the things that I watch, that I listen to, that I read. And that's why I say I'm sure that some people probably say, oh, Naomi, you're naive, you're not aware of things, you're not this. But actually, that's been a choice for myself to help myself navigate. Life is not easy, and so I try and navigate it in a way that, and I for the last this will be my 7th year of stoicism has become a huge part of my life. So I'm very much of the reckoning and the belief system of, I do to others what I hope that they do to me in return. And so I guess that's probably a very, very long answer that you weren't expecting, but I think it gives context behind that. I cannot understand anybody's lived experience, regardless of anything at all.
Thank you. EJ, thoughts?
It's it's a tricky one when we talk about race. Everybody has a race.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a race, and history tells us where the races have fallen. Yeah. But my issue as a Black woman is how much of that history I'm being forced to forget. You talk about generational trauma, and I feel like the Black race is being asked to disregard the generational trauma. I feel like we're being asked to get over it. And I'm wondering how we can get over it when nothing seems to be changing. I want to take us back to the BAFTAs. And as a disclaimer as well, I did a video about the issue, and this is not about John Davidson. I think we should make that clear, who shouted the racial slur, because we know, he has his issues. He has a condition, that the medical condition that has made him say what he said. And I don't want to belittle that. I don't want to disregard that. A video I did, I said it's very easy for us to watch his film and to acknowledge that this person, that didn't come out on purpose, and it's a medical condition. So let me just park that for a bit. But I want to take us back to the moment that thing happened, where two Black Americans are on a British stage. I don't know why people are belittling that side of things. As we said, there are different kinds of Black people. Black Americans are descendants of slaves. That for them is actually quite undeniable. They don't need to trace anything. They're there because that's their ancestors. So for them to be standing on that stage in that moment, in their beautiful suits, where they are, being celebrated, we finally reached this stage where we're almost equal. That in that moment where that is shouted, that drags all of us back to when the N-word was okay, to when the N-word justified you being killed. That in that single 2 seconds of it happening, a lot happened. And I don't want that to be belittled. I don't want that to be disregarded, because that was a huge thing to happen to those people who had to receive it, to Black people in the audience, and to the rest of us who had to hear it. When we talk about, I'm struggling, Vicky, I'll be honest. I am.
Okay,
I'm struggling because what I want to say, I feel is quite heavy,
okay.
and
Just say it.
heavy. It's heavy in that I don't know if people are willing to understand what it is Black people are saying. Now, like I said, I'm one of those people who disregarded the Black experience because it was not my personal experience, and I belittled it and sort of, you're overreacting, until then it started to happen to me, and I thought, oh my word, these people have not been making it up. This is their truth, and now, unfortunately for me, it's my truth as well. When are we going to allow Black people speak uninterrupted? When are we going to, when will people allow us say, this is happening to us, it is painful, we want it to stop? Because now whenever we do that, somehow something else becomes the issue that then silences us. Yeah, something else becomes the issue where they say, oh, well, you should be grateful, look how it used to be before. How it used to be before doesn't mean it should continue now. I'm just looking for opportunities where a Black person can just express themselves and say how this thing feels without being silenced. Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt you. I just want to try and get some context here. So when you're saying this, is this with regards to the BAFTAs, or is this regards to other
in general, I give you example, George Floyd. You talked about George Floyd. That's how I became a speaker, because once again, I was just absolutely peed off because I felt like the wrong things were being emphasized. Somebody's been killed in the streets. People wanted to emphasize, oh, well, he's a criminal, or he's a drug addict. So what? So What? You know, we don't kill drug addicts in the street. We don't kill even criminals. We don't kneel on their necks and kill them in the street. So my issue is every time something happens in regards to not just race, in regard to the Black race, there is no, we're not allowed to express that hurt without being silenced. People then have to bring up other things to almost justify what happened, or they want to amplify something else so that the focus is not on, oh, here we go again. The reason we're still complaining, the reason we're still having an issue is because we're not being allowed to speak. Have you ever seen, I mean, I challenge anybody who's listening to this, the next time you're on Facebook and you see an advert on Facebook, if that advert is a Black person, go to the comment section.
Yeah.
You will be shocked.
Yeah.
Go to the comment section, because now, oh, a Black person can be on TV, can be on adverts without somebody complaining about it. A Black person cannot say, "Oh, I'm hurt," without somebody saying, "Oh, but." And it's beginning to wind me up. I'm usually, I want to be measured, but it's beginning to wind me up, because everybody else, I mean, the UK has 9 protected characteristics. And I know that each of these categories, they're protected because they're usually targeted. You know, they're usually treated wrongly. They're marginalized communities. But when it comes to race, not just race, when it comes to the Black race, we're being asked to forget and get on with it.
Okay. So can I just say something? So again, and I'm coming from this with a completely different lived experience. And I think sometimes it's because I've just gone for stuff. I've just literally just gone for stuff and what have you. And part of me has asked myself, maybe I experienced racism and I don't even know about it and stuff. And you know what I mean? It's like, you probably don't even know it's happening to you, Vic. However, one of the reasons for this conversation is that we know that people ignore stuff, and I've seen it happen with a lot of Black celebrities, people who are on TV doing, they get slagged off so much. Now somebody could turn around and go, yeah, but a white celebrity does them. I promise you, go and watch it and see what the comments are. It's really interesting because today I went onto TikTok, and the same people that have been slagging off Meghan Markle, because now of the whole Andrew thing and everything else, everybody's, the temperature around Harry and Meghan Markle is changing, and there was it was this 2-minute clip of comparing how Meghan behaved, how the press behaved to Meghan when she was pregnant, and Kate who was pregnant, and how the same things that made people love Kate's expectancy are the same things that made people hate Meghan with her expectancy. And the only thing you can think of is that it's a racial thing and stuff, the whole monkey thing and everything else. For me, I want to just educate people. Like I'm not even here to say stop doing this. Just pay attention to the Black person when they tell you who they are. Like we need to let them know that when you shut somebody up, like Black, okay, so here's something that a lot of people don't know. When you're growing up in a Black family, you are taught to respect your elders, full stop. It is almost more important than
Non-negotiable.
it is non-negotiable. You have to respect your elders. There's no, oh, I don't want to do this. It's like, even if you don't like it, you do it. To our detriment sometimes, but it is something that you do. If you're sat down and an elder person walks in, you get up and give them that chair. Professionally, I have seen that ruin people's career, because when you have a manager, you straight away, even if that person is older than you, younger than you, you're meant to give that person respect. That's how an African person is brought in. If that manager then tells that person to either shut up or sort of like tries to make them submissive or bully them or whatever, that person will literally become a shell of who they are, and all of a sudden then they go, oh, I got to write about this. All of a sudden they go onto a PIP, so a personal improvement plan, which
Yes.
which you rarely come back from, and then you get fired, and then you're back in the market and stuff, all because you respected somebody. So when they spoke back at you and they made up lies about you, or they disrespected your demeanor, they respected your African demeanor or black demeanor, whatever I want to call it, you're then seen as the person who couldn't perform in a job, and that's not the truth. The truth is this person just respected you, so didn't speak back.
Respected the hierarchy.
Yeah, respected hierarchy, didn't speak back, and then when they were badgered, lost their voice, which then they couldn't stand up for themselves, which then they were seen as somebody who wasn't good at their job. And rather than just saying to me, oh yeah, I'll be an ally. I hate the term ally, by the way. It does my flaming head in. And I know that I've got some great friends who are allies and stuff. I just hate the term, because the thing is, you can be defending somebody, and like to Naomi's point, if you don't understand the lived experience, you're it's not just about right and wrong. It's understanding that. And I go back to black men. A black man a black man, I can't tell you how scared I am for my brother who lives in Manchester every time he goes out, because because I know that if he goes out and he's driving, he's going to get stopped. If he walks down the street, he can't walk down the street and a white woman comes back and he has to cross the road. And so he has to, because if that woman, and there is no video proof, if that woman starts screaming rape, I promise you, my brother
He's dead.
Yeah, completely, like literally. And these are things that, again, on the online world, us black people don't talk about. And it's not because we don't talk, it just isn't a thing. It's not a thing. You just want to bring it to the forefront of stuff. So when you see a black person, it's not just about whether you're bullying them or whether you're an ally. It's about understanding that the reason why I don't say much is because if I say a lot, I won't stop. It's the fact that, like I said, the drum beats and everything else. And to EJ's point, it's the frustration, and it's a compounding amount of frustration. It's not just frustration that started today. It could have been the frustration. Like I remember years ago when I was a child. I remember, living with a family. I think, like, my parents had gone to work, and I remember people were doing something, and when I tried to do it, I was told off, and that still stays with me, because I was very aware then that I wasn't the same as everyone else, and so now I don't know if that was racism or if it was just that I was a new kid being looked after, but I was very aware that I was very different. So when I'm not saying it's not enough. I'm not saying that allies aren't doing enough. I'm not saying that people who speak up, and also if they don't speak up, either way, I don't go to every other race or gender thing and speak up on, because I really don't know. You won't see me talking about it because I don't know. I don't have enough experience. If you want to talk to me about gay people in the 90s, I could write a whole book, because I used to spend a lot of time in the gay village in Manchester, and I've experienced friends coming out and the struggle of coming out. But these days, I don't have a conversation around it. All I can do is be supportive. Be supportive. Don't pretend to understand what it's like, because, again, I go back to the men, and also the American side of it as well. My niece, I was talking to her yesterday or 2 days ago. She's black. And she was talking about going to see her doctor. She was like, I will only have a black woman. I was like, oh, why? She's like, because in America, it is known that if you are a black woman and you have a different race doctor, your health is not priority. But we don't see that here. Yeah. And we don't even know if it's true here. There was a girl who died recently, a black girl who died recently because they're misdiagnosed. And it happens across races, but in America, it's a huge thing. So when you see, especially an American black woman, for example, screaming and shouting, even if she's just having a normal conversation, and people go, why are they shouting? There's so much in there, even when you're happy, that you don't know what to do. Watch a black person cry over somebody who's died, and that's the true emotion of that person. They wail. They wail because it's the only place where they feel safe to let out their emotions, because even in a black house, you're told not to get upset. You know, like, yeah. Sorry, EJ.
I want to ask Naomi a question. You know, I'm trying to imagine who might be listening to this. And you know, like when you say about the whole allyship thing, and you know, the whole concept of it, I think it's become a bit of a rubber stamp now, isn't it? It's just like it's a label, it's a badge that people wear.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they know what it really means. It's losing its meaning a bit, I think. Am I understanding what you're saying? So my question to you is this: as a human being who has her own journey, her own lived experience, and things that you struggle with, if you don't have lived experience of something, of being black, and your black friend Victoria, you see, is going through a hard time, and she's going through a hard time because of her race. Now, sometimes I'll be honest with you, I feel sorry for white people, because I'm thinking, I spoke to someone from the LGBT community yesterday for the first time, and the number of disclaimers I had to put at the beginning of the call. I'm sorry, I may not get the vocabulary right. I don't really know how to address you. Are you offended if I ask you what your pronouns are? Can I? So the number of the first 5 minutes of the call was my disclaimers to the person, because I'm not part of that community and I don't want to offend them. If Victoria comes to you to say she's going through a hard time because of her race, do you feel confident in knowing what to do or say in that situation?
Yeah, because I think I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
And you know, and I guess it is that thing of empathy and listening, and I can't put myself in her shoes or your shoes or anybody else's shoes.
Yeah.
So for me, I would have no concerns or question over that. It would just be that I would be listening to Victoria and her sharing what she's going through, what she's experiencing, and be there to listen. But one thing I am so conscious of nowadays, is never saying to anyone, I understand how you feel. And that is in my own communities.
Yeah.
I see it all the time with women saying to other women, I understand what you're going through. No, you don't. Because none of us have the same lived experience, even if on paper everything is the same, you know, same race, same sex, same gender, same this, and we do not have the same lived experience. And I see the person as the person, and that really might sound incredibly naive, but that is how. And it's so interesting, some of the things you said there about like your upbringing and how like you respected your elders. Well, listen, a huge amount of my trauma was unhealed because of that upbringing in my family. I was not allowed to cry at my mum's funeral. I was not allowed to not have the first Christmas without her under my duvet cover. I had to sit at the table with my dad and his new partner and a whole host of people around our dining table. I have a huge amount of trauma because I didn't have a voice, and it's why I stood on stage last year, also knowing that there was a huge amount of prejudice against me for being somebody who helps women with weight loss, because that also makes me a target for, people who are against that, and that isn't something that they want to sort of necessarily be a part of or listen to. So one part I do understand of what you said there is about being not allowing to have your voice, because I didn't have my voice for 30 years. And therefore, in every situation where there was somebody of authority, and not just authority, men, I never, ever, ever spoke up for myself in one single relationship because of the relationship with my dad, because of not being able to express myself. So when you talked about that, I can't understand your experience, but there's so much that you said
You
there
can empathize.
I'm thinking I can empathize, because I was taught, you are seen, not heard. You respect your elders. You never answer back. You never question when somebody of authority says to you, do this or do that. It's why I became a people pleaser for so many years and did all those things. I can empathize. I cannot understand.
Well, what would you say the right response would be then? So, I mean, I know I am putting you on the spot, by the way, forgive me. This forum is such an opportunity for us to try and understand, on a human level, where people are coming from. And I suppose the reason I'm asking you, Victoria, please forgive me, I'm trying to just hear what Naomi is trying to say. When I stand on stage and speak, if I'm speaking about equality and diversity inclusion, one question that always comes up is, how can we be good allies? Because it's corporate stuff. So they have all the buzzwords, all the jargon. How can we be a good ally? And I always say, I don't like that question, because my answer used to be, you do 1, 2, 3, 4 things and you're a great ally. But then I thought, no, being a good ally is just being a decent human being. Because if you want to march with the allies, it means on Monday you're marching for Black people, on Tuesday you're marching for the disabled, on Wednesday you're marching for the trans community, and then you have no true understanding. And I know I'm using the word differently to you. No true compassion even, or understanding of the topics or the struggles of these groups. You're carrying the ally banner and you think that covers you in every way. So I say being a good ally is about being a decent human being. If you understand what people are going through on a human level, from one human to the other, this person should not be going through this because of the color of their skin. This person should not be suffering this because they have this disability. This person shouldn't go through this because they are of their gender. So I think what I'm asking you, Naomi, is if that is the reason for the struggle, and I know, and I'm going to adopt what you're saying actually about saying, I don't understand, because I'm one of those people, I get it. Oh. So I'm going to change my vocabulary around that. But I'm just wondering and I know you don't speak for all white people, but what you feel the response should be if the struggle is because of, let's say disability, or let's say race. That is the reason why this is happening to me and it's bad. I'm just wondering how you would respond to that.
Yeah, and the first thing that you said was literally what went through my mind was, actually, how can I be a better human being? Not how can I be a better ally? Because honestly, that kind of word actually gives me the ick. As does the word the ick. Even the ick gives me the ick. But you know what I'm saying? How can I be a better human being? So if either of you or anybody, whether it was disability, whether it was gender, whatever, came to me, and you know what, when I stood at the Big Festoon last year, in the lead up to that, I had a lot of what I would call uncomfortable conversations. Okay. I might have gone into a group and said, hi, ladies and gents. And then
I've changed that as of last week. I didn't know.
I did that about a year and a half ago in a group. I said, hi, ladies and gents, I'm Naomi. And I was picked up. And look, the old me, the Naomi of like, oh my God, I have just offended somebody, would have deleted the post, come out of the group, and literally kind of like shriveled away. And I didn't.
Okay.
Initially, there was a massive discomfort for me, like, and I know where this comes. Here we go. We're talking about like trauma and things. And I'm just sharing this to give some context. A lot of my trauma comes from school, childhood, of not being smart, struggling with my ability. Now, obviously, probably very aware that it was neurodiversity. So I was put down at school, put down, but, you know, told that I wasn't good, told that I, you know, any question that I asked, it was the wrong question. It was this, it was that. So there was a part of me when that happened in a huge Facebook group that had thousands of people in. And there was a part of me that just felt like I was under a spotlight and I was little Naomi again that had, I'm not going to say the word, messed up.
How did you handle it?
So the initial, literally the trigger moment was, oh my God, like I just want to shrink and I want to delete myself from this group. And then I just stopped and I was like, what can I learn from this? So I thanked the person in the comments. I didn't do it privately, send them a direct message. I thanked them in the comments for pointing out, for educating me, for helping me to understand. And then I went back in and I put at the top edit and I edited the post to just say, hey, everyone. And you know what? That's been a massive learning for me. I mean, I work only with women and that isn't me, you know, being discriminative, but I can only, and I can't understand the experiences of all my clients and all the women that speak to me, but I have far more understanding because, you know, the likelihood is we have had similar experiences. Yeah. So I think regardless of the situation, EJ, regardless of the person who comes to me who says that, I would listen to them as a human being and what can I do? How can I support you? What can I help you with? And like I said, that's regardless of race, gender, sex, any age, anything at all, anything.
Okay, thank you, Naomi. So I'm very aware that we're almost on the hour. We normally do 45 minutes and we go. We could talk about this forever. We could, like, we really could. And so, and I'm sure because we're in our second year of the panel, I'm sure we'll come back again and have this conversation. One of the things that I want to say is about 3 years ago, probably the same time that I met you, EJ, or maybe the year after, I was at the Big Festoon again, previously Be Inspired, and there was somebody in there who was they just started their trans journey, and thought they were amazing. Really loved spending time with them, and I said, this is the first place where I'm being told that there are pronouns and it's a they and them and he and I said, so the more it's going to be very likely that I am going to get it wrong. And they said, that's okay because we know you don't mean it. And that as soon as you realize that you've got it wrong, you're going to correct yourself. They said it was the awareness of knowing that you're going to get it wrong that even makes you more someone that we can trust as opposed to not. Yeah. And then I asked about top surgery and everything else. And let me just say this: in Africa, you would be stunned. It doesn't even happen. Like top what and stuff, like you have boy, girl, full stop, right? So again, from an African perspective, there's also that thing where we need to learn as well. And I was like, well, what does that look like? And not just as in the experience, but what happens after, what happens before. I know that people have experienced body dysmorphia as a result of that, and in a way they had body dysmorphia before and stuff, and then they had the operation, thought that everything would be better, and then it carried on and stuff. So, and again, I'm not saying that I'm an expert in the trans experience. What I am saying is I asked questions, and I asked questions in a way that didn't make the person uncomfortable. You see my hair? Like a black woman and her hair is a very sensitive thing, right? It's a very sensitive thing. It's like a lot of us have we have crochets, our hair's either mixed with another hair and stuff. We have wigs, we have this, we have that. I mean, you know, there's a reason why most black women, I don't care really, but most black women will go, don't touch my hair.
Don't touch my hair.
Don't touch my hair. Or and I tell you what does unnerve me at the moment is when somebody goes, "Is that your real hair?" And I'm thinking, in this day and age where most women, most races wear extensions, you would never ask them, "Is that your hair?" Why do you feel it's okay to ask me if that's my hair? I mean,
I bought it, so it's mine.
yeah. So I respond, and I go, "It's a bit of both." But deep down, I'm like, when does it stop? So my whole thing is, I don't care whether you're an ally or not. If you want to be an ally, ask the right questions. If you're going to come and support me, and that's nice. I don't need you to. I just need you to treat me as a human being, if I'm really honest. And like you telling me that you're my ally does nothing for our relationship and stuff. It doesn't. Treat me as a human being. Understand my experience. Ask me questions, and I will tell you. I will tell you why I almost burst into tears speaking at the top of this podcast. I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm happy to tell about my mum. I'm happy to tell you about why I'm very strict about certain things. I'm happy to do that. But understand that if I say to you that this is my experience and this hurts, understand
Believe me.
Believe me, because guess what? I'm gonna do the same for you. I'm gonna understand for you. And we should all be doing that for each other. And it comes back to Naomi's point. Human first. We're human beings first. It's not about color, it's not about gender, it's just that we're human beings, and as a human being you'd want to understand the next human being.
Yeah.
And wouldn't the world be a better place if that's where we all started from?
Yeah. But we need to do better, because I'm sure we've all failed in our parts in trying to understand somebody as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to just finalize with this. And
But before you finalize, can I say two things, very short, two things. First of all, if I say it hurts, believe me that it hurts. Secondly, if it hurts me, your hurt does not make my hurt me less. I think that's what's missing. If I say it hurts me, then please believe me that it hurts me. Yeah. And if I say it hurts me, if something hurts you, great, sorry it hurts you, but your hurt does not make my hurt less.
Yeah. Thank you. And I also want to say this as well. And Black people, don't come for me, but listen. I'm going to say this to all those Black people. We also need to do better. We need to EJ's breathing again. We need to do better. We need to stand up. We need to stand up for each other as well. We need to stand up for each other, but we also need to be kind to each other, because if we're kinder to each other, then people will learn how to treat us. Does that make sense? And stuff like, we also need to, I could go on. This is a whole different topic, but we just need to do better. Like literally, like we've opened the conversation. Promote yourselves, talk about yourselves, let people understand where you're coming from. Let people understand why maybe you're coming from a place of frustration, anger, lost your voice, whatever, but also support each other. Because the more we support each other, the more people will go, oh, wow, they're coming to us in numbers. Because I'll be honest with you, stuff, it's like I can count my Black friends on one hand and stuff. It's like, and that's me. I've really made an effort to get to know those people. The rest of them are family, right? But it's like we need to do better. We need to sort of like just make sure that we wear our crowns up strong and let people understand where we're coming from, because it's not been an easy ride. But also we also need to respect other people's journeys as well, because their rides haven't been easy. We're human beings. We will see you. We might not be around next week. I've not even told the ladies, but we will see you in about 2 weeks' time. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.